Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another excellent episode of Breakfast with Bill. Mr. Bill Tallarico, the namesake of the show, when he came in today, said this was going to be a high-energy episode. So that's what I'm looking forward to from today. Bill, Matt, gentlemen, how are we?
I don't remember saying that, but I think
Wow.
I was just putting undue pressure on us. Good morning, Matt. How are
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Evan, thanks for that extra pressure. Just what I need, trying to bring energy. And speaking of energy, Evan is filled with energy as we get closer to the due date of our beautiful little girl coming, huh?
Absolutely. Very excited about it. Going to be a father. Going to be a life-changing event, I think.
Well, I think you're right. Yeah, it'll definitely be a life-changing event. When's the big day?
June 4th, they're saying.
4th. I hope that's not a Tuesday morning because we need you here. So
We'll see where your priorities lie.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah, as we get a little foreshadowing of prioritization today. So good morning to everyone. Thanks for joining us. And as we talk today about some practical examples of process, Matt and I are real good at sitting at this table and telling you guys how to go ahead and execute process. And rarely do we ever share stories from our execution of the process, both good and bad, and how that goes. So we want to share a few of those stories with you today. Matt has a couple he's going to share. I have one from last week that we think is timely, and it'll help us think about how we actually apply these as we engage with others.
But before we start that, we want to make a quick announcement to everybody out there watching
Yes,
that
sir.
if you have any questions about selling, hiring, or leadership, submit your questions to Evan at Tallarico Group. We will be doing a new shorter segment at the end of the show where we're answering your questions. And, these guys give great advice, and I love listening to them. I'm sure everyone out there loves listening to them. But what if you have a specific problem that you need addressed? Well, here it is. I mean, we're giving that house away for free. Send in your questions. Matt and Bill are going to address that personally right on the show live for you. So
Yeah,
keep
we'll
that
have a
in
new
mind.
mailbag segment that was, Evan's idea and Evan's driving, and quite frankly, we like it because we always say that, information is only good if you can go use it. As our friend Ricky likes to say, help is only help if it feels like help. And however we can help you guys in a more timely fashion, we think will give you more value. And as we go deeper and deeper into these shows, it becomes easier if you guys have needs that we can address versus us always trying to push what we think is timely and important. So, Evan, thank you for that. And please, everybody, we did have some questions come in from last week. We'll be addressing one of those today near the end of the show. So, Matt, you last week had a couple encounters with some new prospects and ongoing prospects, and you had some great opportunities to apply some of the process that we live by. And you were going to share a couple examples of it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, we employ everything that we coach. It's not in the sales laboratory. We don't come in each day and say, I wonder what I'm going to draw up on the whiteboard today to talk about.
You don't? I'm kidding.
Not always. So, we'll never coach something that we don't do personally. So, had a selling opportunity. I am a salesperson at a sales consulting firm, I guess, as well. And it's something as simple as agenda setting. So we went into the meeting, the niceties were done. There's three people in the meeting. And I simply said, so what brings us to today? That's it. Let it stay out there. Let it sit. They went on and talked for 13 minutes because I timed it. The only two things I said were, tell me more about that, and what else do I need to know, for 13 minutes. And I could have absolutely checked I could have checked all of the Fant boxes.
Yeah.
Needed to dig into discovery more. But the power of agenda setting, and it's something so simple and it's so fundamental. But I just want to make sure that everybody's doing it because you get to find out why you're there. You get to thrust yourself into discovery. You get to avoid, the quote unquote building rapport,
Right.
which so many salespeople use as a comfort blanket. Hey, how did it go? We really hit it off. It felt really good. We talked about fishing and great. What'd you learn about Fant? Well,
I know he likes to go and what do you call it?
Fly fishing.
Fly fish. And we talk about those things and we talk about kids' sports. And that's all great. I mean, I'm not suggesting you want to be a robot and just fly through and say, tell me about your budget. But to Matt's point, when we open up conversations with nice, open invitations to conversation, people feel more comfortable to share with us. right? And you think about the power of that, Matt. I mean, what did you say? What brings us to today? That's it. What brings us to today? And we got 13 minutes of a client or a prospect speaking to us and telling us all those things are important to them. They open up their heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to be that pesky, pushy sales guy. We're a consultant at that point. We're in the consulting phase. We're listening to their challenges. We're hearing their heart, and we're able to ask them questions about what the impact of that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then what would a good solution look like? And if we were able to do this, and I think at the end of that conversation, you got to a point where after they opened their heart to you, where'd you end?
Yeah, so we went about 45 minutes. So I talked about the beginning, and then at the end, I asked, as I felt like we were starting to wrap up,
My favorite question.
What's one reason why this wouldn't work, or we wouldn't work together, or something of that nature, or one thing question. What's one reason why we wouldn't proceed? And they both looked at each other. The one said, nothing. He blurted out, nothing. And then the other sat a little bit more analytical, and he said, understanding the price might be nice because I didn't propose anything yet other than asking if they would want our help. So really the beginning and at the end, two very, very simple things that we talk about probably in the first week of coaching.
Yeah.
But the power of it is tremendous. So two easy ones, but real life example.
Yeah, and full disclosure, that's a client or a prospect that we're working with another one of their companies. It's a group, private equity group that owns many companies. One of the representatives on that call was from the PE firm. The other was the CEO of the new organization we'll be working with. So there was some established trust, but for one of those individuals, but it's a great example of how when we go into conversations with the other's need first, giving the other an opportunity to express their needs, giving the other an opportunity to share what's important to them, because they come into these conversations sometimes fearful. We forget. You might be selling every day or very often. Your product, your service, you very well. The other individual doesn't buy this every day, right? So giving them an opportunity to speak allows them to exhaust those fears they might have, allows them to open their hearts, allows them to be very transparent with us. And we owe it to them to give them that. Another example of agenda setting I ran into last week was I was in a second call with a prospect. And at the beginning of the call, the first call we had was all discovery. This call was going to be what would our program look like, and I was sharing with this president of the Americas for this large organization for her team, what would our engagement look like for them. So at the beginning of the call, I started and I asked her, we scheduled an hour, is that still good? And she had come into our call, I think 7 or 8 minutes late. She sent me a note, running late, get it. And I think we only had 45 minutes scheduled. And I said, we had 45 minutes scheduled. Are we still good with that? She said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I can run up to the end of the hour if we need it. I want to make sure we get through all this together. But it let us know where we were versus, if somebody's coming into a meeting 7 or 8 minutes late, what's that tell us about their day? They're rushed, right? There's a lot of pressures on them. Rather than us trying to throw stuff out and make them absorb things at a pace that they can't, why not stop and say, are you still good for today? Or do we need to reschedule? Do you still have enough time? If there's a fire burning bright, if we're selling to senior executives and they have brightly burning fires and we're trying to push our solution on them, I hate to tell you, but there's no water going in that bucket, right? It's overflowing. Mm-hmm. And we need to give them an opportunity to either walk away at that point and take care of what's really maybe most important to them, the urgent problems they have, because we'll always then have that opportunity when we build that trust to come back later.
Well, is it truly sales is something you do for someone, not to someone? At that point, if we're putting our needs, our meeting, our desire to have a sales encounter ahead of what's going on in their world, their life, then we're not truly living that.
No, absolutely, man. And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there of salespeople. Matt and I watch them sometimes. I sent him one yesterday that I particularly enjoyed. where it was all manipulation on the part of the
I actually signed up for the 1995. No.
So, there's a guy out there on YouTube who, it's amazing. He has like 1 million followers or more, and all he does is show himself in private planes. And you're not grinding hard enough if you're not getting people to make decisions today. And, he's making these phone calls and laughing, looking around people. That's not what this is about. It's not manipulation. It's about connecting with people, serving them, and helping them understand how they can be better. So anyways, agenda setting is a big part of that.
And if I could go back to something you said quickly, another fast story you talked about, and if there's one thing that I've learned since getting into this profession, it's that people don't necessarily know how to buy. They don't know what happens next internally in their own process. Right. We ask these questions as salespeople to gain information, to understand what happens next. But as we ask those, we're also helping people understand what happens next for them as well. So I had a professional services interaction in my personal life. The individual, highly recommended, highly trusted. I would have bought if the individual came to the meeting and didn't say anything and just pushed paper across without discussing it. Great meeting. We hit it off. A lot of mutual acquaintances. Just awesome hour and a half. So I was in. I'm good. And knowing this is something that's very small, right, in this person's line of work, but guess what? It's really important to me.
Yeah, so you're saying the engagement, the work you're bringing to him is small to him.
Small.
Big to you.
Almost a favor, probably, right. at that point. And I realize that. And I understand that that time is money, and I want to respect that. But it's important to me.
Right.
And so we went through the whole, just give me this, give me that. I'll spin around the proposal. And I was like, we don't even need a proposal. Let's just do verbally. Yeah. Okay, get me this information. Great, we leave it. Week goes by. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how long this process takes. I mean, is this, I know it's small, but I should have heard something from now. 2 weeks goes by. 3 weeks goes by. I finally reach out. The moral of the story is I finally got stuff back that was great work. However, I had sort of a bad taste in my mouth because expectations weren't managed. I didn't know what happens next in the process. Mm-hmm. If this individual simply said, this is going to take 6 months, I would have said, okay,
right?
Sounds good, because I didn't know what needs to happen. So there's so much power in managing expectations and having those clear next steps. Instead of saying, oh, that was a great meeting. Yeah, I'll get it to you. Can't assume that getting it to you is the same timing as the prospect.
That's such a great point, because I think I suffered from that a lot early in my career, and assuming that I would just get things to people and do the work. And part of that is not even giving updates. It's part of where I'd fallen down early in my career too, is not giving somebody the updates on the work that we're doing, and letting somebody know what to expect next, when something's going to come to them, when they can expect to hear from us again, when they can receive information. Is very critical. Speaking of that, about keeping people informed and what comes next, we're big fans of clear next steps. And last week I had an opportunity. I was in another selling environment working with a very senior leader of a very large organization, one that I used to work at, actually. And it's kind of cool to go back and talk to them. But we had a great conversation. She talked about the work she wanted me to do, our firm to do, with some of their advisors and their frontline individuals working with customers. And at the end of it, she said, hey, I have a meeting internally Friday with one of my colleagues. Based on that, I'm going to share this with him. I think we want to partner on this. And after that, I'll follow up with you. I said, great. What time is your meeting on Friday? She said, we meet every Friday at 9 for 30 minutes. I said, okay. I said, so by 9:30 or so, you'll know our direction. She said, yeah. I said to her, you wouldn't respect me if I didn't set a clear next step right now, would you? And she chuckled and she said, no, I probably wouldn't. I said, so let's get something on the calendar for us to touch base Friday. Do you have any windows? That was it. I didn't make it pressure and go down the road of hemming and hawing and asking and things. I said, hey, do you have any windows? And she said, yeah. She goes, I could do 11:30 or 3. So let's do 3. And I said, I'll send you a quick invite for 30 minutes. We can catch up at 3. Tell me what you think and what we do next. And she said, great. So I sent her the invite. She accepted. We had a clear next step for Friday at 3. We were going to talk for 30 minutes. And we always say that just because we have a clear next step, it's not perfect. Just because we have the calendar invite out doesn't mean 100% of the time they show up and we're able to move forward. But we do say when something comes up and you have something calendared, you get feedback and you get information. It's much less likely that somebody goes into the wind. In this case, Friday, I received a note from her and she said, Bill, we talked, things look good. We have something coming out internally that's going to drive and impact this program. We're supposed to know more about that by the end of the month. They're supposed to have that to us by April 30th. Can we set up more time to talk the first week in May when we know what's happening? Sure. Replied to her email and said, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. What happens now? I have permission and I have direction to get with her admin and set another clear next step for the first week in May. Right? Versus if I didn't have that set up Friday, if I didn't have that on the calendar for Friday, what would have happened? She would have had her internal meeting. They would have said, hey, we're going to know more by the end of the month. Let's wait and see what happens then. I probably wouldn't have heard anything if I would have waited for her to get back to me. If I would have accepted her, I'll follow up with you when we have more. So this week would have gone by. I would have gone into the weekend not hearing from her thinking, oh, that couldn't be good. Then this week would go by and I wouldn't hear anything. And if I reached out to her, she's a busy executive. What would she have thought? Yeah, I'll get back to him when I have info. I don't have anything right now. So how many people are going to make a 3-minute phone call because they know it's not going to be 3 minutes, right? So they're not going to call me to say I don't have anything. So we would be going and going. We'd have lost momentum. I'd be in a bad place. I'd be leaving voicemails and emails. Now we still have momentum. There's still a reason for us to talk the first week in May because of the simple fact I took, 2 minutes and said, what windows do you have Friday?
And the clear next steps aren't necessarily even the lesson here because I think all of us understand clear next steps now. But I think it's the discipline and mental toughness to continue to get clear next steps when you're 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings
That's right.
into the sales cycle. It's a lot easier to do it the first time, right? It's a lot easier to get it for a proposal draft review. Many people can do that, many salespeople, once they understand the power. But it's that mental toughness. When we've built that relationship, we have that rapport. We're feeling warm and fuzzy because they're giving us great buying signs and saying, yep, we're in. It's just a matter of getting this person to see it or getting budget or whatever the situation may be. That is what separates good salespeople from great salespeople. Being able to stop right then and there, get a clear next step, which needs to be on a calendar.
That's right.
And that's what always, that's where the wheels fall off for many people. So
are you saying I'm a great salesperson though?
Well, I'm gonna have to check Bill's calendar to make sure that that's actually on there for the first week.
I don't have all my opportunities in there yet. So,
but we want to answer a question before time runs out.
Yes, we have a question. Evan, you want to pull that up? A question was submitted to us this week that we were going to address, and Evan, you want to give that to us?
The question is, how would you coach someone who can't get everything done because they're trying to do everything?
Huh. I don't know if that applies to any of our listeners because we all have it managed, right? We have everything properly prioritized. Well, the easy answer to that one is prioritization. And, I joke there's some behavioral styles out there. We do a lot of work with DISC when we're working with leaders and team building. DISC is a behavioral profiling tool that helps us understand our natural behavioral style. And there's a lot of individuals like my wife and my father-in-law, two people who I love very, very much and I respect and admire very, very much. But I teased them both about having horizontal priority lists, right? Because they both have a high C drive, which means they focus on accuracy and precision, and they want to understand the mechanics. They want to make sure they understand what they're doing before they do it. So oftentimes we can get into a lot of analysis, and that if we have that style, which means that we're going to have that horizontal priority list where everything's important. And I had that sometimes wrong priorities when I was younger, and I'll never forget. One time I was sitting in my cube at Merrill Lynch and doing my expense report at 10 o'clock on a weekday. And my RVP at the time was a guy named Ralph DeSalvo who taught me a lot. And Ralph went on to lead the Fifth Avenue office in New York, the most prestigious office in the system. So Ralph had a very nice career, very good mentor for me. And Ralph walked by, looked at me. He said, come see me in my office, which usually wasn't good. And in this case, it wasn't. And I went back to his office and I sit down. I was like, what's up? And he said, were you doing an expense report out there? And I said, yeah. And he said, we do revenue producing things on revenue producing time. I was like, oh, okay. And he made it so clear to me that I never forgot it. And I think it's that simple. How do we start getting things done is we just pick one thing and we focus on doing the next right thing. And we start to understand the prioritization of our time, be it revenue producing things, be it dealing with that challenge, that individual that we're putting off because we don't want to have the unhealthy conversations. But it's a matter of just, I think, addressing the next right thing that's going to have an impact on our day and start to delegate, which is a much longer topic.
Yeah, and something that comes to mind for me is what's the unique ability for the organization? And when we talk about just unique ability, salespeople, I work with salespeople more often. Their unique ability and their best use of time for the organization and personally, from a commission standpoint and revenue standpoint, is going out and selling, right? So although they feel really helpful answering the door when the UPS person comes, or running out and getting lunch, or helping operations with some overflow. And again, we're not saying not to be a team player, but consistent behaviors. Where I usually go,
because those things can get in the way of your revenue producing time, right?
Correct.
Those things can become a habit.
Correct.
And if we want to, and I think what Matt's saying is, hey, when the UPS truck has a big delivery, and we know we have a big customer need, if all hands on deck need to carry that thing in because it's the next right thing, the most important thing, we do it.
Yeah.
Right. But if every day you're looking out for the UPS guy because it's a distraction to actually making phone calls, then we're hiding and avoiding.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying, because people don't think I'm as mean now, I guess.
No, Matt's very nice. He just comes across as mean. Yes.
So what is your unique ability with the organization? Is that leading people, right? Is that going out there and selling? So just be mindful of how many times you're ordering coffee.
That's right. So it's funny you say ordering coffee, because I had a conversation with a CEO of one of our clients, and I coach him personally. Matt coaches the team, and I had a conversation with him about what's important, how are we delegating, how are we passing on all this good tribal knowledge, and he was dancing around the subject a little bit. And I said, hold on. And he had bought this company when there were like 5 people. He's grown it to, 40 or something, had a great run, great man, great executive. And I said to him, tell me about your involvement in coffee. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you guys have a coffee pot, right? There's an office coffee pot. He said, yeah. I said, tell me about your role in coffee. And I said, tell me what your role in coffee was when you bought the company. He goes, well, when I bought the company, there were like 4 of us. So I'd go and I'd buy coffee and bring it in and do this and that. I said, what's your role now? It's virtually the same, right? So he's grown the business from, I don't even know the number, say $1 million to $30 million, from 5 people to 40 or more. And he's still buying the coffee. And Matt gets on me when I order coffee cups. So, I'm victim to this sometimes. Matt will oftentimes just walk by my office, look at me, shake his head, and be like, and that's his way of telling me I should be doing something different. So it's that prioritization, getting ourselves to what our unique ability is for the organization. Unique ability, that thing that we can do that no one else can do for the organization. If you're a salesperson, it's generate revenue. If you're a leader, it's leading. It's not ordering coffee cups like I sometimes do, but I really like our coffee cups. And I want to make sure we get the right ones, right? So there's all that rationalization that goes into the things we do that we don't need to do when we should be focused on revenue producing activities, on revenue producing time. So Matt, we're running a little long today. It's 25 minutes past the hour. Great discussion. Thank you. Evan, anything we need to share before we take off?
Just a reminder for everybody, if you have questions about selling, hiring, or leadership, please submit these questions to Evan at Tallarico Group, and I'll make sure that our 2 geniuses sitting over there give you the answers that you need.
Who's going to answer those questions?
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jesse Gary, your focus determines your reality. I like that.
Yeah, another way of saying that is where focus goes, energy flows. So I like that, Jesse. Where focus goes, energy flows. All right, everybody, have a great week. Thanks for being with us. God bless you all, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.